Hey everyone, and welcome. Today we are tackling a huge concept, one you hear all the time, redemption. That's right, and it's a word that's so central, but what does it actually mean? Well, at its core, redemption is really simple. It's about buying something back. But that opens up a whole can of worms, doesn't it? What was lost that needed to be bought back? And who in the universe could afford the price? That's what we're going to get into today. Exactly. The dictionary definition here is pretty straightforward: to buy back. I always think of a pawn shop. You've got this priceless family heirloom, but you're in a tough spot, so you pawn it. To get it back, you've got to pay the price.
And that's the exact picture the Bible paints for us when it talks about God's plan. It sets up this massive, central question that really frames everything else we're going to talk about.
And that question is, what was so valuable that it was lost and needed to be redeemed in the first place?
Right, because you can't really appreciate the rescue unless you understand just how big the disaster was. And to do that, we have to rewind the tape all the way back to the very, very beginning.
So that brings us to our first big idea. A kingdom was lost. We're talking about the original job, the original authority that was given to humanity. And let's be super clear here. This isn't like, misplacing your wallet. This was the loss of an entire kingdom, a position of unbelievable glory and responsibility that was handed to us directly from God. Yeah, this is day 6 of creation stuff. All the way back in Genesis chapter 1, verse 26, God says, "Let us make man in our image, and let them have dominion over all the earth." And that word dominion, that's a power word. It means rule, authority, sovereignty. God was basically handing humanity the keys to the planet and saying, "You're in charge. You're my appointed rulers over this perfect world I've made." We were created to be kings and queens. I mean, look at this job description. Made in God's image, crowned with glory and honor, given dominion. We were literally put in place as the kings of a glorious, perfect kingdom.
Oh, totally. It's like being handed the deed and the keys to the most incredible estate you can possibly imagine. Every waterfall, every mountain, every animal, it's all under your care. You're the steward. That was the starting line for humanity.
But then comes the turn. And the Bible puts it so simply, so starkly. This dominion was not retained.
Yeah, that's the heartbreak of the story, isn't it? That glorious position, that beautiful kingdom, it was forfeited. The keys were handed over to another.
And the book of Romans gives us the reason why. Chapter 3, verse 23 says it all. "For all have sinned and come short of the glory of God." That phrase, "come short of the glory," is just so descriptive. It's like we had this incredible standard of glory we were created for, and we just missed it through that one act of disobedience, sin. So that raises a pretty massive problem. If humanity is bankrupt, if we've lost everything, how could that inheritance ever be restored? Who could possibly pay the price to buy back an entire world? And that leads us right into our next section, the price of redemption. It's the story of how that lost inheritance was reclaimed. This is one of the most powerful ideas in the whole Bible. It sets up this incredible contrast between the first Adam and Jesus, who it calls the second Adam.
Yeah, you can see it right here, side by side. Everything the first Adam lost, Christ, the second Adam, won back. He literally stepped into our place to systematically undo and reverse everything that went wrong. He didn't just patch the problem, he completely reversed the curse.
We see this so clearly in Galatians chapter 3, verse 13. Christ hath redeemed us from the curse of the law, being made a curse for us.
You know what's amazing about that? When Adam sinned, it wasn't just humanity that fell under a curse. Go back to Genesis, and God says the ground itself is cursed. He says it will now bring forth thorns also, and thistles.
Wow. So think about Jesus on the cross. What was on his head? A crown of thorns. It's so much more than just a random act of cruelty. He was literally, physically wearing the symbol of the cursed creation he came to redeem. That's just incredible. Okay, so if Christ paid this unimaginable price, if he bought back the title deed to the whole world, that leads to the next logical question.
A very important one, and it's our third section, heirs of the promise. Now that the world is redeemed, who gets it? Who inherits this purchased possession?
So let's just let that question sink in for a second. A kingdom was lost, a kingdom was bought back. Who gets to be the new king? Who are the heirs?
It's a huge question, and the Bible gives a very, very specific answer.
And here it is, straight from Galatians chapter 3, verse 29. "And if ye be Christ's, then are ye Abraham's seed, and heirs according to the promise."
It's that simple and that profound. The heirs are anyone and everyone who belongs to Christ. It's not about your bloodline. It's not about your heritage. It's about being connected to Him. Your faith in Him makes you an heir to this incredible inheritance.
But what exactly is this promise that it's talking about? Well, Romans chapter 4, verse 13 gives us the jaw-dropping answer.
Yeah, it says the promise God made to Abraham wasn't just for a little strip of land in the Middle East. It was that he would be the heir of the world, the whole thing. So when we become heirs with Abraham through Christ, that's what we're inheriting, the world itself.
Okay, but let's be real for a second. You can look outside your window and pretty clearly see that we haven't inherited a perfect world yet, right?
Not at all. And that's because this inheritance is still future. What we have now is like the down payment, the guarantee. The Bible talks about a future event called the times of restitution of all things. And that brings us to our final section, restoring all things. This is the grand finale.
The Apostle Peter gives us this incredible step-by-step preview of how it all goes down. Yep, you can see the sequence here. First up, Christ returns. Then the universe as we know it is basically unmade. Peter says it will pass away with a great noise and melt with fervent heat. It's a complete teardown to make way for the final step, which is a new heaven and a new earth, a total cosmic reboot. And this verse from 2 Peter chapter 3, verse 13 really brings it all home. This is the goal of everything. Nevertheless, we, according to his promise, look for new heavens and a new earth wherein dwelleth righteousness. That's the key. The whole point of redemption wasn't just to save souls. It was to restore a physical world where righteousness can finally and forever dwell. It's the Garden of Eden, but this time it's permanent. It's the kingdom restored. But it's easy to get impatient, isn't it? I mean, this promise was made thousands of years ago. You can start to wonder, is this ever really going to happen?
Oh, for sure. And Peter knew that people would feel that way. He actually predicts that scoffers will come along and say, where is this promise of his coming? I mean, come on, things have been the same since the beginning of creation.
And Peter's answer is just brilliant. In 2 Peter chapter 3, verse 8, he basically tells us, you've got to change your perspective on time. He says, one day is with the Lord as 1,000 years, and 1,000 years as one day.
In other words, God exists outside of our linear timeline. What feels like a frustratingly long wait to us isn't a delay to him at all. He's not bound by our sense of urgency.
So why the wait? Verse 9 gives us the beautiful reason. This delay isn't because God forgot or is unable to act. No, the Bible frames it as an act of profound mercy. It says, the Lord is not slack, but is long-suffering, not willing that any should perish, but that all should come to repentance. Every extra day that passes is another day of grace, another opportunity for more people to be included in this inheritance. And this all leads to one last really amazing thought. We've talked about how 1,000 years is like a single day to God.
But remember, the verse goes both ways. It also says one day is like 1,000 years. So what could that possibly mean for us?
So let's just quickly recap this incredible story. We started with humanity being given the keys to the kingdom, given dominion.
That kingdom was lost through sin, and the whole creation fell under a curse. But then Christ, the second Adam, came and paid the ultimate price to buy it all back.
Which means that anyone who belongs to Christ is now an heir to that original promise.
The promise of a fully restored new heaven and new earth where everything is finally made right.
And that brings us to the final question we want to leave you with. If God operates on a timeline where a single day can hold the weight and power of 1,000 years, what does that mean for your life? It means there's no problem so big, no heart so broken, no situation so hopeless that he can't completely transform it in what feels to us like an instant. So the question is, what 1,000-year work is God waiting to do in your life today?